Today we are going to talk about how our thoughts really do create our experience. And I'm going to share with you a couple of stories to help illustrate how we can be in charge of our lives through our mental thoughts and processes. So stick around. Do our thoughts create our reality? Is this really true? You know, we often define ourselves by our job, by our home, by the possessions we have. Sometimes we define ourselves by the successes of our children or the successes of our spouse, the amount of money in our bank. And all of these are parts of who we are, but they are not our reality. They're not who we really are. And because what happens is that our thoughts about the amount of money in the bank makes all the difference in the world, more than the amount in the bank. It's our thoughts about it, not the reality of it. So how can we use the idea of using thoughts to create our reality, to make our reality a better place? So I want to share with you a couple of stories to help you understand and illustrate this idea, to help you create the thoughts about the things that you like and make them a positive thought. So let's say that you walked around all day long, you had an amazing day, you talked to people, you maybe you conducted some business that was successful, you enjoyed lunch with a good friend, you came home, and this is a day that was a big win for you. And you felt like a success. And you went to bed and you woke up the next day and you did it again. And you were motivated because of what happened the day before. So your thought about it is, this was a great day. Now, what if at the end of the day, you came home and you saw that you had something in your teeth, or that you were dragging a piece of toilet paper behind you the whole day, but you were unaware of those things. And so as you were moving through the day, your thought process was, this is a great day. I can't believe how great I am. Look at all the success I'm having. And that was your thought process. So the reality of, but if you had known, if you had like intentionally put something in your teeth or stuck a toilet paper, dragged the toilet paper behind you, I don't know if necessarily you would have the confidence or have called that day as much of a success, because the thought says that's not correct, that's embarrassing, you shouldn't do that. And so then we're not going to present ourselves in a confident and successful manner, right? But the truth and the reality is that thing was in your mouth, or the toilet paper was there, and yet you, because the thought process didn't attach to that, then our reality turned out to be great. So if that's the case, if that story can happen, then what we can do is we can kind of do that in reverse. So I'm going to share another little story. Once, when I was in high school, I had a friend, and her little sister was going to class to learn how to drive. And they had this big ugly van, I'll say. And it was in the shop. And so they were borrowing their grandpa's like old car or old truck or something while their van was in the shop. Now the van was not a beautiful piece of machinery, but for whatever reason, to my friend's little sister, she was terrified to be dropped off in this truck, that people would be made fun of her, or she felt like this was so embarrassing, she couldn't handle it. She was like, she wanted, and she was kind of having a little fit about it. And it was a big lesson for me, because I saw that there were a few thoughts that was creating her reality. Number one, she was believing that people were going to judge her and her worth off of the vehicle that she was being dropped off in. And that they were going, in her mind, this was going to mark her and she was going to never be able to come back from it. And that wasn't necessarily true. The other thing is that she believed that they would judge her in this vehicle and not in that vehicle. But what was the reality there? So in this moment, I could see how her thinking was sending her in a path that seemed like it was just a one-way path. There was one possibility at the end of this path. And if she showed up in this car, she would be acceptable. If she showed up in this car, she would not be acceptable. So I said to her, what if you showed up in this car that you don't like, and you got out of the car and you took a deep breath and acted as if that was the best car in the whole world, and you walked into the classroom and you sat down with your head held high and you just went to class? What would that be like versus getting out of the car, hunching over, being fidgety and embarrassed over the look of the car? I think that the reaction people would have toward her would be totally different based on how she reacted. So how she thought about herself would make all the difference, more than these things that we often think define us. So thoughts of success are our very own, and we can practice having successful thoughts. That's why it's important to have a morning routine or time set aside every day to get our thoughts and our emotions into a positive state, so that when we walk out the door, we are expecting successes, and we are able to receive the successes, and we are not defined by the judgments we have on the things that we have. If for one person an amount in the bank may be a fortune, and for another it may be something that they would be stressed about. It's all in our perception and our thought patterns towards it. And we have the ability to change those thought patterns with practice and with daily affirmations and intention. I encourage you to find your own way of bringing your thoughts into a positive state, connecting with the greatness of who you are, and being able to go out in the world not defining you by what's outside of you, but looking at and working on until you feel fantastic inside, and then your world will reflect who you really are.